Okay, we're started.
Okay, so this should be a pretty quick command meeting. We're gonna discuss a couple things because it's like the only person missing that really needed to be part of most of this discussion is Sarah, but that's all right. She can comment later. So about finances, we're doing okay on that. Simran's getting paid, um, but I still want to set up the Libera Pay for Sarah so that people that don't buy Lindens can pitch in and just have a monthly donation come out. I think that would help. We need to add a column to the table for people that are subscribed and donating to give them a corruption multiplier. Is that pretty easily doable?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, like, depending on how much they're contributing, depends on how much their corruption multiplier is. We'll talk about that throughout the next two meetings. So, on the topic of finances, I know that you guys saw that I want to move the server because we host some other game servers that require 32-bit libraries, and Ubuntu's freezing those. So, we're going to do that, but we need to decide on which Linux distribution we're switching to. Which is why I asked you if you could look into making sure that we're okay with MySQL 5.5. If we're not, I can get 5.6 or 5.7, or we can just pick a different distribution. But when you get some time, I know that you needed a newer version of PHP, but I don't think you needed a newer version of MySQL. So I just can't confirm. So. With that being said, activity really spiked again this week. Let's try to keep that going. And, what do you guys, basically the other thing is, with the switching the server thing, sorry, I'm kind of like really recovering from a headache. We have two options, and I'm pretty sure we already decided on the better option in my opinion, but right now we're overpaying for what we have by basically double. Just to have it on Amazon's web services, which is kind of like, it doesn't fucking matter because we're not distributing like a massive web app or something like that, which is what we would be paying the extra for. So we have the option of paying half what we're paying now, or paying the same amount of what we're paying now and getting double what we're getting now, with the exception of we'll have 1 terabyte less of transfer, which isn't a big deal because we don't use nearly like even close to 20% of the transfer that we already have, and that's while running voice services and things like that. So it pretty much looked like everybody decided in command that we'd be better off continuing to pay the amount that we know we can afford anyway, to get the extra power out of it, which would be really nice because we could get more stuff running on the server, as well as like the Minecraft server being way more stable and shit like that. So I would, with maintaining the server, I would put aside time to teach you guys how to maintain the server when I'm not around as well, if you guys are willing to put forth the time to learn how to do it. Because I can't always be around to do this when there's a problem, and like, when there have been problems in the past, like, for example, something goes down or something like that, sometimes it'll wait like 12 hours before I fix it. And, like, we can't have something like that happening with, like, the armory or something like that. Like, somebody else has to learn how to do this. And Tyro is learning how to do this, and he needs some real-world experience, so I feel like he's one of the people that needs to learn. But, like, if you, Sam or Rachel want to learn, too, it's not hard. Like, it's, like, for most of the things, like, updating the TeamSpeak server, I already wrote a guide on how to do. So there's some typos in the guide, and I'll go through and fix it. Updating the Minecraft server take me like 5 minutes to write a guide on how to fix that. So we can get that going. Which, speaking of TeamSpeak server, TeamSpeak 5 is going to come out sometime between now and the end of the year, according to their development roadmap. TeamSpeak 5 is going to be more Discord-like, and if we lose all the features that we like about TeamSpeak, our only option is to switch to Mumble. Are you guys okay with switching to Mumble?
I don't really have an opinion on it.
Yeah, same.
Do you want me to put a Mumble server up so you guys can see how Mumble works before we make a decision on it then?
Yeah, eventually.
Will it be free?
Yes, Mumble's open source and free.
Yeah, go ahead and
Yeah,
do that. I'm down for
Alright,
seeing
yeah.
how it do.
Yeah, alright. I'll toss a Mumble server back up later tonight so we can play around with it. Same address as this. Now, when we switch services, if everything goes right and we get all the SQL tables and databases moved over, there should be very minimal downtime, like a minute or two tops. So that's the good thing about what we're doing compared to what we had to do last time. However, we'll have to shut the passive corruption giver off while we're doing this, otherwise there'll be a conflict of like 5 to 100 corruption, depending on what's going on, between the two tables while I'm moving them. So we might as well just shut all that shit off until it's moved, and then we'll set aside we'll set aside a time for that. But it's legitimately taking the domain name and pointing it from one server to another, so it shouldn't take very long at all. Same with the forums. In the forums and the armory will be the first two things I move. Then I'll move the TeamSpeak. Then I'll move the Minecraft. Then I'll move some of the other stuff that we're running and things like that. So, shouldn't take very long. It's like a day ordeal. Once we do that, we need to start or set up a time, like, because what we need to do is monitor the network and CPU utilization activity on the server and see when there's a lot of people doing stuff on the server, be it on Minecraft or TeamSpeak or something like that. And we need to set up a time when that's not happening to do automatic backups on the Armory database and forum database and things like that. So that if something does go wrong, we have a backup and we can just roll back to that. Because right now we're not doing that with anything but TeamSpeak, and I just have the TeamSpeak backup running at a set time every day. We can actually have it check to see when bandwidth and CPU utilization is at its lowest and do the backup then. So, we'll end up doing that as well. So, the other thing that I want to talk about for command is we need to sit down and like get a priority list set up for Mechanicus again so that we can show the rest of the group during meetings like tomorrow what we're working on and what's next on the table and things like that. That doesn't need to happen today or even tomorrow, but by the time we have our next meeting, I would like to have a priority list with things getting done on it. If that's cool with you, Dread.
Yeah. No, I'm just going to say right now what I'm mainly trying to fuck with, it's kind of holding up vehicle development, is I'm trying to make it so shit stops nosediving.
Yeah. Just, if you need to, two things. I know this isn't a Mechanicus meeting. Just make the tanks self-right themselves after a while. We're the only people who have tanks that actually flip upside down. Just have them set themselves back upright after a little while.
Okay.
And then you can actually add some stabilization into the scripts themselves so that it doesn't just nosedive when you go off a hill or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if it does, it corrects itself, you know. Adding spheres to where the treads are supposed to be is a great idea, so, like, definitely do that.
Yeah,
that'll help with it getting stuck and stuff.
Yeah, I noticed one of the things about it is that it didn't really help for errors curbs, and on top of that, it made it bounce.
Yeah,
which is
weird. With the bounciness, we just need to adjust the actual physical properties of it, like the buoyancy and things like that. Yeah.
As for errors curbs, I'm working on one right now over there at the moment, and it's handling them pretty well finally.
You're not gonna get a level of consistency. Go ahead.
Yeah, part of the issue is that the hitboxes on those curbs are fucking garbage.
Yeah, well, that's because they're crappy marketplace mesh roads.
I hate them.
So, you're not gonna get any level of consistency with stuff like this unless you make a hover tank. Like, it was a big problem that Flying and I had with my buggy, and we had at one point thought maybe we'll just make it hover above the ground and people won't notice.
Okay.
But that required a lot of math. We had to calculate a normal via 3 raycast points, and then we'd have to do that with each wheel, and it just wasn't worth it.
Alright. I hate to say it, but I just don't remember having this much issues with, like,
there are issues. Yeah, there's a lot of issues with the current movement core, and we need to get those squared away, but let's take some time to get it figured out.
Right on.
And, you know, you're constantly... The thing is that I bet the new movement core works pretty well on terrain, but nobody has terrain anymore. So, you know, you're constantly colliding with objects, and That's part of the problem. That's why, like, the next sim build is going to have terrain to make tank combat more fun. We might do, like, a multi-tiered sim build, like KBC did with that one voxel build.
That'd be cool.
That would be kind of really fun. So, we'll play around with the idea. Sam's got a pretty good layout, but it's just the Necron build, again.
It's not the Necron build.
Oh, you're talking the one that me and Sean were talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm just giving him shit. I gave him some pointers on, like, refining it and getting the scale right, too, so...
Which really helped.
Hang on a sec. So, I mean, what do you guys think about finances? Do you think Liberapay is the way to go?
Are there any other options?
Patreon, but I don't really want to do Patreon.
Fuck Patreon.
Yeah. Because one of the group's enemies could flag the Patreon page and we could end up getting screwed out of a, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And you always got to worry about shit like that because all the little fucking malicious shitheads are back in the community, so...
Yep.
Plus, I think Patreon, when you donate, there's like an extra fee. I don't think there is with Liberapay, if I remember.
I think Liberapay has a transaction fee, but yeah, I mean, every online payment platform is going to do that, even PayPal. Like, even when I get money from PayPal, like, unless you say it's a gift, they still take, like, at least 1%, I think. So, yeah, like, when you cash out, unless you cash out, like, do a bank transfer, which takes a while. Mm-hmm. But, like, LL charges 3.5% or something, and then there's, like, a bare minimum fee of, like, 20 or 30 cents now. So, like, when you buy Lindens. Personally, I think before we do our next sim build, we should buy our own sim. So that we don't have to deal with the chungs or anything anymore. So that this money is going into an account that then things get auto-deducted from, and we don't have to deal with this, this middleman shit with the chungs or anything like that. It cost us $350 the first month, and then the amount of money we'd be paying would be the same amount. But we should probably wait until the price of Sims goes down a little bit more. Yeah. Like, when the thing goes through, and then when we're ready to build again, we just move over, and we'll plan ahead, like, a month in advance, so that, like, we take what we need from this sim build, like, back up the whole build in the terrain, and then we just move the next day, or something like that. And that way, we have full control over it, and we can start exporting terrain files as well. Because now that it doesn't cost $1,000 for us to get a new sim, we can just set aside $340 over the next few months to get the sim. You know. So,
okay.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that at the group meeting after the next one. We're going to go back to having weekly group meetings for a little while to keep this activity spike that we've gotten up.
I agree. Absolutely.
And so on the topic of group-related things that aren't externally related, I think Cronus is here, and I think Cronus should be the next person promoted. I know he's got a lot going on in his life right now, but he's still getting on every day or every other day and things like that. So I think that we should promote him to Chosen either this meeting or the next meeting. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yes.
I'm cool with that.
And then I feel like Bentley and Magnus are next in line, but Bentley's been more active than Magnus, and so I mean, we'll see what happens from there. But right now we still don't have anybody in the champion role as well. So
quite honestly, we might just... I'm a-okay with bumping Bentley up as well. He's been really busting his ass to keep raids.
Yeah, I think a month from now, absolutely. Right now, let's just see if the activity keeps up. You know.
Okay.
All right. Take had back surgery, and that's why he has not been around, but he has been responsive to anything I've messaged him within the past 24 hours of me messaging him, so that's fine. Seth, I think you were gone for a bit, but you didn't miss a whole lot, so I'll try to update you on what's happened sometime this week, like a few things that have gone on.
That would be nice.
Yeah. There's really have only just been a few things that have changed and that needed, like, enforcer things done, so with the whole thing with you guys and Takoi with this post that you're handing around, I have your backs, but some people are going to interpret this as a blockade of Takoi. I don't, because we're still giving them the option. Well, we're giving them two options. Be transparent about what your shit does, or use the guns that we are okay with you using in our sim, or use guns that we're going to provide for you to use in our sim, or fuck off. So we're actually giving them 4 options, not 2.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's what I said to people who already said, like, Santiago, like, he said, oh, so this is a blockade, and I said it's not a blockade because combat is not being prevented. Nobody is being banned unless they get pissy and grief the sim.
Yeah, which anytime we've administrated against a Takoi member, we've had to deal with every fucking time. So that's what I'm fed up with, you know. You got to deal with Service in a practically invincible gunship flying around the sim for an hour because he's drunk and doesn't want to leave. And it just, you know, that kind of shit gets old. I don't have time for it. You guys shouldn't set aside time for it. You know, if they're acting stupid, just turn on a box that unsits all of them and griefs them in the hub. You know.
For the other command members, I'm going to right now look over what we have here. This is the proposal to Niv.
Okay.
This is Dread accepting it.
Yeah.
And this is Rachel accepting it. So, that's it. If anyone has a problem with it, let us know.
Yeah. In terms of like a new sim build and stuff like that, I want 4 options like mapped out. Assets that you'd need, like in order of what you'd need based on priority of what would prevent the sim from opening the earliest, so that we can get those assets made for each sim build. Then the sim build that we decide on, we will then make assets or textures for. I don't think that we should need a lot of assets. Shouldn't require a full game level's worth of assets to rebuild the sim every time. We have...
Okay.
Yeah. We have 6 years worth of content from the group. We can recycle content. It doesn't need to be a unique, unique assets per sim and stuff like that. If textures need to be updated on things, that's easy to do, you know? So, like, I know that a lot of people have problems with this sim build. I like it because it's not vehicle-centric, but at the same time, because this build is not vehicle-centric, the next build needs to be very vehicle-friendly, you know? But we will not build a new sim until we have at least had an objective system down in this sim for 90 days. Because this sim was built around the idea that there was going to be a fun objective system in it.
Okay.
And it would only take 1 day to knock out the objective system. So,
and since Minus isn't even here anymore, we don't even have to fuck around with power-ups or whatever the fuck.
We were never going to do that anyway.
His idea for the objectives is really convoluted, and I don't understand it too. I'll do what you were suggesting, though. I just need to have
do it when I'm online, please. I don't care when it gets done as long as we're both online to mess with it. Alright? That way, like, there's no confusion of, like, well, wait, why is this working like this, and so on and so forth. You know?
Just give me a note card, and I'll do it to those specifications, and then we can tweak it afterwards. That's
okay.
All good.
Yeah. In terms of, like, we gotta figure out how we're gonna, like, if we're gonna have a lot of command, like, I know everybody's busy, but, like, we might have to change the way that, like, we make decisions, like, because Sarah's busy, Ricky's busy, Cairo's busy today. Like, the way that the command thing has been going lately has put delays in decision making, and I feel like that's kind of becoming a problem. Tyro made this fucking vote bot in Discord, and I've asked him for several months to tell us how to use it, and he hasn't. So, I might make my own. We'll see what happens.
Tyro is just really stupid.
So yeah, promote Cronus within the next 7 days, maybe tomorrow. I need to talk to Ricky and Sarah and Tyro about it. And we're gonna move the server, I guess, within the next 14 days. Oh, that was what I was going to talk about. We need $40 in overhead at some point for server moving, so that we can get the new server set up, and so on and so forth. I was hoping to be able to do it this weekend, but I just think that that's unrealistic. So we're going to have the server up for, we're going to have to pay for next month's server usage, but because we pay for usage and not for the server up front, if we get it moved by next week or the week after, we're not going to be paying the full amount of money for that we paid for this month's usage on the server that we currently have. And I'm going to look at how that works on DigitalOcean, if it's usage based or if it's just a flat fee and they just assume that you use that much. Because the nice thing about Amazon was we were paying for usage, so sometimes if we weren't using everything a lot, the cost of everything would be 20% cheaper than normal. But if we're still paying double for that usage, what we would be paying somewhere else, are we really saving any money other than we're saving it based on the plan that we have right now? So. Who is Dustin?
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, okay. I think that about covers it. The big thing is, Dread's working on making note cards for all the guns, right?
Yeah, something like that. So we have instant transparency instead of being it does this much amount.
Yeah. I mean, it's still the point that somebody can come into our armory and grab it,
Yeah, true.
Too. So, I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine, because the information isn't readily there when somebody asks about it. So I'm fine with that. But at the same time, it's here it is. Fuck you.
I mean, shit. I've wanted to do that for a while. The only thing I was missing was solid data on.
Well, my thing on that is that sometimes I want to work on something, but I don't know what, and I'm having the creative block, and that's something I can just do. That'll be productive.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. I don't think anything really needs to change about training. After you guys set up the STD stuff, thank God we didn't lose it in the fucking forum migration. That was stressful. Holy fuck, that was stressful.
Dumbass.
I was in denial that was going to happen.
I was at the point where I was like, well, we were supposed to have a backup of that. Was the problem. I paid... What's that?
We do now.
No, not of the STDs, of the whole forum. I had iPage set up to back up everything. And so then when I went in there and I was like, oh, I can't restore it, what the fuck do I do? I did manage to physically roll it back by legitimately hacking the container that the server was running in and forcibly rolling it back on the command line. Then I moved it and I ran the update 7 or 8 times until it finally went through on the new server. And so that's what ended up happening.
Jeez.
It was a huge pain in the ass. That's why we're never, ever going with automated hosting again. We're just going to self-host. The few extra steps it takes sometimes to do something is worth it, in my opinion, as opposed to how they had everything set up. That was a fucking nightmare. So, yeah, that covers everything, and we are taking backups every week of the server that we're on right now, but those backups can only be applied from Amazon, so I'm gonna have to do my own backup of the whole server to move it. But I don't want to move everything like that because there's a lot of bloat shit in there from when we were fucking around when we first got the server that we don't even use anymore. So, topic for tomorrow: should we delete the Black Library channel so we can move the TeamSpeak easier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything in there can be found everything in there can be found on Trove.
Okay. Then the last thing is that Sarah just needs to back up the Mechanicus channel since that's mostly for her, and we should be good.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I'll put up a Mumble server tomorrow night, and we'll get that figured out, too. Alright, that should be the meeting.